yes, the title of my story is about 838s. I'm 8 years old. Lonnie's in the living room, which also moonlighted as my bedroom, playing the bass. Surrounded by creative records from Steve Arrington, Stanley Clarke, and John Lee Ponte. I don't remember the first moment when I called him Dad, but my memory leads me to believe it was just because I thought he was cool and one of the only non-family member men that I had been around. Lonnie would take me to school, issue beatings with his thin snakeskin black belt, not in a malicious way, more in a traditional, it was passed down to me from slavery, this is how I was raised way. He told me things like, boys don't cry, to hit someone when they hit you back, which led to me hitting a kid with a blue He-Man lunchbox on the right side of his head in the first grade, which led to my mother putting me in Catholic school because she was concerned with my safety. Lonnie also taught me how to open doors for women. He would dress me like him in black matching leather Jeff caps, and most importantly, for all purposes, treated my mother well. So even though I was only in grade school, I could see my unofficial man of the house title to him. I thought at one point that Lonnie was my biological father, probably because I didn't understand what biological meant, or maybe because I just wished it to be true, or perhaps I didn't know or even care. Lonnie's mother called me her grandson. His nieces and nephews called me their cousin. To his brothers and sisters, I was their nephew. And they all lived around the corner from my mother's mother and father, who lived around the corner from my mother's sister, who stayed in the same block as my mother's first cousin, lived around the corner from my grandmother's twin sister. I say all of this to say black family life can be close-lit and at times confusing. At least in the South Philadelphia neighborhood where I was born and raised. But on the playground, I didn't spend most of my days. I still remember my birthday blowing out my chocolate-covered tasty cakes that were bought from a packet of 3 from a corner store, and watching my city drop a bomb on the pro-black radical members of MOVE with Lonnie's family. We lived miles away, but you could still smell the burning of the black dreadlock bodies of black women and children throughout the city, from West Philly all the way to South Philly. Lonnie would get shot in the head one night while defending his sister against her abusive drug-dealing boyfriend while eating pizza over his mother's house. Lonnie didn't die that night, but I still lost the first father figure that I had. And when that died, something was born inside of me, anger. When I was 18, my big dream was to be the best rapper. I couldn't count 16 bars and I didn't have rhythm, but I would pass my time in class writing rhymes, all the words within the margin, and cursing out religion teachers at my all-boys, predominantly average Italian Catholic high school. Most of my anger revolved around white Jesus, me being crucified for being dark-skinned every single day of my 18 years of life, by people including my family members just as dark as me, and white priests who later become Trump supporters being father figures to white students who later become heroin and prescription pill addicts, who at the time would judge the way I said words like naked by reading the Bible, and at the same time trying to convince me to know more about Wu-Tang Clan than I did. My friends consisted of future felons who would go back and forth to prison, future accountants, future educators, future fathers, future union leaders, and future gay men who would eventually become comfortable and courageous enough to live in their own truth and marry their partners, while in those present moments, we spent most of our days calling each other gay slurs and something we were creative enough to have creatively crafted ourselves. Most of our fathers were heroin addicts, womenizers, absent, crack addicted, HIV positive, or taking care of and being positive role models for other families. So all we had was hip hop and our collective selves to teach us things about black history, the definition of manhood, and which way we should brush our hair in order to grow waves. We spent most of our time walking 3 or 4 miles downtown on the weekends, shopping, eating at IHOP, dodging cabs and moving traffic, listening and speaking to homeless people, and getting stopped by the police for no apparent reason, being young black men in Center City. One of my friends who was the most academically gifted out of all of us would get arrested for jaywalking. I would get yelled at by a cop one time and called a fucking street lawyer for questioning why we were stopped, as he threw my just bought belongings to the concrete looking for a hammer from a robbery. Around this time, I had known my biological father, who I eventually called Pop, for 4 or 5 years. My mother sent him to court for child support when she was having a tough time paying the heating bill. Before he came over, my mother, who was nuanced and dramatic flair, broke out the space heater and placed it at the top of the steps for him to see, and opened the oven door in our tiny kitchen. I would not only be my father, who I expected to be tall, dark, and Billy D. Williams, Colt 45, but does it every time, 80s handsome. But he turned out to be short, dark, with a big smile and a huge keloid in the top of his right ear that he had since a child. That October night, I would also meet 4 out of my 5 siblings the same night I would meet him. He would call them in from his deuce and a quarter Pitmobile, and they would all file in single file, from the smallest to the largest, to meet me. While I was more concerned about the Phillies playing the Blue Jays in the World Series, I couldn't wait for the awkward introduction to be over. My mother would drop me off by his job every Sunday to pick up money. He would give me $50 in ones like it was clockwork, as he bragged about me to every single one of his coworkers and patrons alike who would pass by the hotel lobby where he worked. The $50 in single ones almost felt like blood money in a strange way. One Sunday, I run into the mother of my 2 youngest siblings, who also was at his job to receive her portion of blood money. Later that night, she would become upset that he had yet another child that he discovered, and one who looked just like him, and would stab him in the back with a fork from the kitchen while he was asleep. Years later, she would shoot him around Thanksgiving in his stomach, and he would lose a finger in the process as he attempted to wrestle the gun away from her. The scar around his stomach would also grow into a huge keloid, the kind of keloid that I had across my body, except much larger. Getting shot by women must have been a rite of passage for the males in my family, because my father's father was also shot by a woman when she caught him in a project apartment that he also worked in with 3 or 4 of her girlfriends. The number went up and down depending on who was telling the story. She aimed a shotgun at his penis but missed, shooting him in the left leg. I still remember my mother called my pop to get me reinstated back in school after another suspension my senior year for cursing out yet another Catholic religion teacher. I was less than thrilled to hear how upset he was that he had to call off of work. In fact, I was pissed off, and in my rebellious spirit, I probably would have taken the repercussion of missing out on my senior prom, which was a week away, and even graduation. On my 28th birthday, I remember feeling old. I was stuck going nowhere fast. I was stuck at the same dead-end job, was stuck in my 2nd or 3rd stint of college, stuck on Dutch Masters and 40 ounces of private stock, stuck going to the same club 3 or 4 nights a week, and stuck with the same friends who also stuck doing the same things that I was stuck doing. We all thought our sexual conquest made us men, which in actuality we were just covering up for our black male insecurities and doing our best acting jobs and starring role as men. At this point in life, I have brought so many women to my mother. She firmly stated as only she could that she did not want to meet another woman unless I planned on marrying her. I had convinced my mother that I was actually a good guy because I was honest about not wanting to be in a serious relationship. And I was honest about being honest. I was like Robin Hood, take a single black woman out for a free meal, decent conversation, mixed with a bit of chivalry. One night after watching a boxing match, my friends and I sat in my tiny one-room apartment drinking the cheapest, nastiest vodka you could think of, Vladimir. It was my friend's birthday weekend. He and another one of my friends got into a testosterone-filled argument about who could be who in a fight, which turned into a back and forth about who had been anally penetrated by another man. The birthday boy took an iced tea from a corner store, the kind of corner store that's only found in the food desert, the kind of iced tea that only black people drink, the kind of iced tea that only black people get from diabetes. Emptied the rest of the Vladimir in the oversized plastic cup. Everyone in the room advised him against it, but he guzzled it down in a mixture of what could best be described as a hysterical laugh and cry screamed out, "I was only 8," as he began to sweat profusely across the forehead of his brown face. The usually vocal, jovial room fell silent. The person who initiated the argument grabbed the vodka, opened the white flimsy screen door, and threw it down the street. Like that was to blame for the incident. The most mature person in the room stated, "You know black people get therapy, right?" and drove him home. My papa at this point would come hang out with us and do the same things my friends and I were engaged in. Even he was left shook and even speechless. It would take the birthday boy and us 10 years to be friends with him again, as he would start to say things behind our back, things to our women friends, things to put other friends against each other. I didn't understand it at the time, but he was probably suffering from depression and crying out for help. If I can go back in time, I will hug my brother, maybe cry with him, ask him more about his unfortunate incident, basically be a decent human being. instead of who I was in that moment. Someone sprawled out over my brown carpet who didn't know what to say or what to do. Someone who felt like they couldn't help a friend who had called my mom, just like the rest of my friends. Somewhat amused, half uncomfortable, and mostly just stuck. At 38, I would have met my match. I would discover the thing I needed the most, the thing I would have ran away from 10 years earlier, the thing I was looking for most of my adult life. I'll be married to the most beautiful black woman the Creator himself ever created. We would struggle with infertility together, struggle with being relatives or brothers and nephews dealing with incarceration, and struggle with the pros of being a black couple in present-day America and how gender roles are defined, not only in the world, but within relationships. But the key is, we would struggle together. I would still see Lonnie in my old neighborhood, limping that Save-A-Lot when I took my grandmother and her twin sister grocery shopping. I would always be stuck on what to say to him, so I would say nothing, and he would say nothing, or with a half smirk, like he wouldn't be the first person to crack. My pop and I were going to be the best of friends as I grew older and less angry, and saw my flaws as a man, intertwined with his flaws as a man. And whenever he would drink too much, he would cry and beg for forgiveness. And who am I not to forgive? My friend, the birthday boy, would go and receive therapy and come to my wedding. We would embrace and argue about the Sixers and basketball analytics like we never skipped a beat. He would apologize, and I would apologize. And he would allude to the fact that he needed to receive some therapy. We didn't go in depth to bring up specifics or even really use the words apologize. It was more in the way that black men tend to apologize with a you good, I'm good, and a handshake and half a hug. He would shake his head and say that he needed time to himself and allude to the fact of him not loving himself. Recently, I've been spending time in classrooms as a mentor, as a future clinical social worker, surrounded by impressionable brown-faced boys who remind me of myself when I was their age, or my friends or family members debating in my mind what the proper way to teach them about masculinity and manhood is, when I still battle with these things myself. Thank you.